Good evening, Mr. and Mrs. America. This is Paul Harvey. Stand by for news. I'm sure everyone has heard about Rotary International and its current very large, slow, yet very successful global fight against the scourge of that awful disease, polio. The story starts, as you might imagine, with the basic principles established when Rotary began many years ago. However, I'll just reflect on how polio once affected even the highest levels of our population, and how it happened that Rotary's progress against polio, seemingly just short of its first major milestone, seemed to have stopped at one point, tantalizingly short of that goal, and why that happened. The older generations remember seeing the heart-rending pictures of children who had been crippled by polio. And of course, the statistics of the number of children who died as a result of polio were even more heart-rending. Polio can strike various parts of the body and make them incapable of functioning. Many children were victims of such weakness in the chest area that they couldn't breathe. And I can well remember the pictures of unfortunate children of my generation spending their lives enclosed in a large horizontal cylinder where breathing was done for them by machines called iron lungs. But polio can strike adults as well. Members of the older generations are probably aware of the fact that President Franklin Roosevelt, usually referred to as FDR, became a victim of polio at age 39. The disease had left his legs so weak that he basically couldn't walk or even stand on them. And he went to great lengths to hide his incapacity. But people in the older generations recall seeing him in newsreels, stepping up to a podium to speak. And indeed, the younger generations may also have seen these old newsreels of FDR on television. Well, if he could hardly walk, how did he do that? The answer is that he had conditioned his upper body to such a degree that he was a very powerful man above the waist. He would have two of his sons walk with him, one on either side. What an audience didn't see was that FDR kept his weight off the floor by supporting himself on the arms of his sons, one on either side, while FDR swung his hips so as to make it appear that he was walking normally. Once at the podium, he would grab the podium, which had been carefully set exactly to a specified height, in what looked like a typical speaker's stance. But he was actually supporting himself for the duration of the speech. After FDR became president, members of the Secret Service trained in such maneuvers were always close at hand when he was exposed to the public, ostensibly to protect the president from anyone who might wish to harm him, but who were actually often also providing the means by which the president was hiding his incapacity. I've mentioned that FDR was very strong above the waist. And this was clearly demonstrated to two of his adult sons one day when he was sitting on the side of a bed with one of them on either side. All of a sudden, he grabbed both of them, one with each arm, and flipped both of them at once, heels over head, backwards over the bed. Switching now to more recent years. The effort led by Rotary to eliminate polio in the world has been making great progress, with fewer and fewer countries reporting new cases of polio each year. There were 350,000 cases of polio in 125 countries in 1988. By 2012, only Afghanistan, Pakistan, and Nigeria reported new cases the previous year. Finally, one year, there was just one country left reporting new cases, and that was Nigeria. The world hoped that the following year there would be no countries reporting new cases the previous year. But alas, the following year, Nigeria still reported new cases of the dread disease, and worse yet, a few additional countries were again reporting new cases the previous year. Anyway, one by one, these other countries are once again reporting no new cases the previous year, while Rotary and the world continue to work for the eventual elimination of polio everywhere, including Nigeria. Elimination won't be considered officially complete, however, until there is a new case of polio anywhere in the world for 3 consecutive years. But having no new cases of polio anywhere for at least 1 year is a critical, huge first step in eliminating the disease. But meanwhile, what really happened in Nigeria that progress in polio's elimination there seemed to stop and even turn around in that country? A country in which Rotary has a strong presence. In fact, just a decade or so ago, the international president of Rotary was a Nigerian with whom I once had a delightful conversation. It seems strongly counterintuitive that Nigeria would be the last country to report no new cases of the disease for a year. However, Nigeria is a divided country, with roughly the southern half being Christian and the northern half being Muslim. The Muslim leaders in the north can be a troublesome lot, as has been graphically demonstrated recently by the emergence of the Boko Haram movement, which, among other things, literally kidnapped all the girls from a girls' school and subjected the girls, then separated from their families, to a very unpleasant, very strict practice of Islam, which tormented their families and indeed the entire nation. Well, when distribution of the polio vaccine started in northern Nigeria, these same Muslim leaders told their people not to participate because those drops being placed in the children's mouths would make them sterile, quite unable to ever have children of their own. It was a bold-faced lie, of course, but vaccination of children in the northern part of the country was effectively halted. Even though polio vaccinations of the children of other Muslim countries had been accomplished without such problems. Eventually, the Muslim clergy in northern Nigeria relented, and the polio vaccination program there restarted. And now you know the rest of the story. Good day.